Before Thailand became the vibrant nation the world knows today, it was almost never supposed to exist. Hidden in ancient chronicles is a disturbing truth. The very first Thai kingdom was built by people fleeing war, famine, and political collapse, a people who were not supposed to survive, let alone rise to power. Yet from the ashes of fleeing tribes came a kingdom that would defy empires, rewrite its destiny, and become the only nation in Southeast Asia never colonized by the West. But to understand how Thailand was born, we must travel back to a world filled with chaos, migration, and blood. Origin. Before Thailand had a name, long before the word Thailand existed, the ancestors of the Thai people lived far to the north, in what is now southern China, especially in areas around Yunnan. They belonged to the Thai ethnic groups, living under powerful Chinese dynasties that began tightening control, imposing new taxes, and expanding military presence. For the Thai people, this meant one thing: leave or be erased. So they migrated, slowly, silently, over centuries, moving south along rivers and mountains, searching for a land they could call their own. These migrations were not peaceful. They were chased by armies, forced to abandon villages they built. Families scattered. Thousands died on the journey. But then, everything changed in the 13th century. The Thai people found a fertile place, a place of rivers, rice fields, and trade routes. They called it Sukhothai. And from this small settlement, a kingdom would rise. Rise, the first Thai kingdom. In the year 1238, something incredible happened. Two local leaders, Phokun Bang Klang Hao and Phokun Pamuang, united their people and broke free from the fading power of the Khmer Empire. The rebellion succeeded, and the first independent Thai kingdom was born, the Kingdom of Sukhothai. For the first time in history, the Thai people had their own leadership, their own culture, their own identity. Under King Ramkhamhaeng the Great, Sukhothai flourished. He created a new Thai script, still used today. He established open markets, fair laws, and peaceful diplomacy. He expanded the kingdom's influence across the region. Thailand, or Siam as it would later be known, was finally rising. But this rise came with a hidden shadow, because powerful kingdoms do not rise without attracting enemies. Crisis. The shadows around Sukhothai. The fall began with whispers. To the east, the Khmer Empire still watched Sukhothai with resentment. To the west, pagan Myanmar was crumbling, giving birth to new aggressive powers. To the south, powerful Malay kingdoms sought control over trade routes. And internally, Sukhothai's unity started to fracture after King Ramkhamhaeng's death. Regional warlords broke away. Power shifted into rival hands. The once mighty Sukhothai began shrinking, and in the mid-14th century, a new, stronger kingdom rose in the south, Ayutthaya, a kingdom that would absorb Sukhothai and become the new center of Siamese power. Sukhothai, the birthplace of Thailand, gradually disappeared into history. But the spirit that created it survived. Rebirth, the legacy that could not be destroyed. Even though Sukhothai fell, it left behind something more valuable than territory: an identity, a written language, a sense of unity among the Thai people, a belief that they could rule themselves, and no empire could permanently crush them. This spirit would shape every future kingdom of Siam, and would become the reason Thailand resisted colonization when the rest of Southeast Asia fell. Sukhothai had died, but Thailand had been born. But this is only the beginning, because after the fall of Sukhothai, a new capital rose, powerful, wealthy, and dangerously ambitious. A kingdom so rich that European explorers called it the Venice of the East. A kingdom that would dominate Asia for centuries, before being burned to the ground in a war so brutal it almost erased Thailand forever. Siam stood in the middle of this storm. Under King Rama II and King Rama III, the country expanded its influence through military campaigns, taking advantage of regional instability. Siam strengthened control over Laos, Cambodia, and the Malay Peninsula, seeking to create buffer zones against Western threats. Yet even with these gains, it became increasingly clear that traditional warfare could not stop the advance of industrialized empires. By the time King Rama IV, Mongkut, ascended the throne in 1851, the world had transformed. Steamships patrolled the coasts, Western diplomats demanded trade privileges, and colonial powers sought new territories. Unlike many rulers of his time, Rama IV understood the danger immediately. He had spent decades as a monk, studying foreign languages, astronomy, and Western science. His knowledge allowed him to negotiate with Britain and France with unprecedented skill. Instead of resisting foreign pressure with force, something that had already doomed many Asian kingdoms, Rama IV took a different approach: diplomacy, modernization, and strategic concessions. He signed treaties like the Bowring Treaty of 1855, which opened Siam to international trade. While these agreements limited Siam's autonomy, they also protected the nation from direct colonization. The king used trade revenues to strengthen the economy and invest in infrastructure, laying the groundwork for deeper modernization. Meanwhile, Bangkok transformed. Roads, canals, printing houses, and schools emerged across the capital. Western experts were invited to teach science and technology. For the first time, Siam began stepping into a globalized world, one where survival depended on adaptation, not isolation. Yet while Rama IV held back the colonial tide, the real battle was only beginning. The next monarch would inherit a kingdom on the brink of becoming a protectorate, surrounded by European empires hungry for land. And that monarch would become one of the most influential kings in Thai history. The struggle against colonization was far from over. Britain and France were preparing to divide Southeast Asia, and Siam stood in the last unclaimed space between them. Only a leader of extraordinary intelligence and courage could save the kingdom from being swallowed whole. By the time King Chulalongkorn, Rama V, ascended the throne in 1868, Siam faced a perilous reality. European empires had conquered nearly every neighboring kingdom. France dominated Indochina. Britain held Burma and Malaya, and Western powers demanded trade and influence in ways that threatened the sovereignty of the kingdom. The pressure to colonize Siam was immense. One misstep, one failed negotiation, and centuries of Thai independence could vanish overnight. Chulalongkorn was just 15 when he began his reign, yet his education under Western tutors and exposure to modern governance gave him a unique vision. He understood that to survive, Siam needed more than diplomacy. It needed reform from within. He embarked on a radical program to modernize the country, transforming every aspect of Siamese society. One of his first priorities was the administrative system. He replaced the old feudal model with a centralized bureaucracy, reducing the power of local nobility who could potentially resist the monarchy. He created provincial governors loyal to the king and established ministries that mirrored Western institutions. By professionalizing the government, Chulalongkorn ensured that Siam could operate efficiently and respond to external threats. Simultaneously, he abolished slavery in stages, freeing tens of thousands of citizens. This was not just a humanitarian act. It also strengthened the economy and created loyalty to the monarchy. Education became another cornerstone of reform. Schools were founded across the kingdom, teaching modern sciences, languages, and administration. New infrastructure projects, railways, telegraphs, canals, and roads, connected the kingdom like never before, facilitating trade and military mobility. But Chulalongkorn's greatest achievement lay in foreign diplomacy. Using a combination of skill, strategy, and timing, he played Britain and France against each other, granting limited concessions while preserving Siamese sovereignty. When France demanded parts of Laos and Cambodia, he ceded certain territories, but carefully negotiated treaties that kept the core of Siam intact. Britain, wary of French expansion, became a reluctant ally. Through a delicate balancing act, Chulalongkorn ensured that Siam remained the only Southeast Asian nation never colonized. His reign also transformed Bangkok itself. Grand palaces, railways, Canals and bridges modernized the capital. Western architects were employed alongside Thai artisans, blending Siamese tradition with global influences. The country opened its ports to trade, embracing global markets while maintaining political independence, a feat few thought possible. Despite his successes, Chulalongkorn faced resistance at home. Traditionalists feared change, and nobles were wary of losing centuries-old privileges. Yet the king's careful planning, charisma, and moral authority allowed him to navigate these tensions, securing reforms without igniting rebellion. By the end of his reign in 1910, King Chulalongkorn had done the unthinkable. He preserved Siam as a fully independent nation, modernized its institutions, and created a foundation that would allow the country to survive the turbulent 20th century. But even as Chulalongkorn strengthened Siam, the world was changing faster than anyone could predict. Political unrest, global wars, and new ideologies were on the horizon. The next decades would challenge the monarchy itself and threaten the very identity of the nation. As the 20th century dawned, Siam was a nation transformed. The modernizing reforms of King Chulalongkorn had strengthened the bureaucracy, expanded infrastructure, and secured the country's sovereignty. Yet beneath this progress, social and political tensions simmered. The old feudal system had been dismantled, but new ideas about democracy, equality, and nationalism were spreading rapidly among students, intellectuals, and civil servants. By the 1920s, Siamese society was changing faster than the monarchy could fully control. Western-educated elites began questioning centuries of absolute rule. They argued that a constitutional system could prevent corruption, distribute power more fairly, and modernize the nation politically. Meanwhile, economic pressures, growing urbanization, increased trade, and foreign loans added new complexity to governance. The monarchy remained deeply respected, but absolute authority was increasingly seen as outdated. Discontent among military officers, civil servants, and the rising middle class reached a tipping point. On June 24, 1932, a dramatic event reshaped the nation forever: the Siamese Revolution. A small group of civilians and military officers, calling themselves the Kana Ratsadon, People's Party, staged a bloodless coup in Bangkok, demanding the end of absolute monarchy and the creation of a constitutional government. King Prajadipok, Rama VII, faced a stark choice. Resistance could ignite civil war, but concession would mean surrendering centuries of absolute power. Ultimately, the king agreed to a constitutional monarchy, marking the first time in Siamese history that political authority was shared with elected representatives. This was a momentous change. The monarchy survived, but the nation had entered an era of politics shaped by the people. However, this new system was far from stable. The 1930s and 1940s saw multiple coups, factional fighting within the military, and growing nationalist movements. Political life became a delicate balancing act between civilian leaders, military strongmen, and the symbolic authority of the king. World events further destabilized the region. During World War II, Japanese forces occupied parts of Siam, forcing the government into a precarious alliance. Though the monarchy and nationalist leaders preserved some autonomy, the war left scars on the nation's political and social fabric. After the war, Siam, renamed Thailand in 1939, faced modernization challenges alongside Cold War tensions. Urban centers expanded rapidly, foreign aid and investment flowed in, and the middle class grew in influence. Yet political instability persisted, with recurring coups and short-lived governments marking much of mid-century Thailand. Democracy was fragile, and authoritarianism frequently re-emerged as a solution to national crises. Despite turmoil, Thailand survived where other nations faltered. Its identity, shaped by centuries of resisting colonization and centralizing authority, allowed it to endure radical change. Even as kings lost absolute power, the monarchy remained a symbol of continuity, uniting a nation, navigating the complexities of modernity, war, and ideology. But survival alone would not satisfy Thailand's growing ambitions. The post-war era would bring rapid economic development, political intrigue, and social upheaval. The next chapter would see Thailand transformed into a regional powerhouse, while internal conflicts threatened to tear the country apart from within. After the devastation of World War II and the complex political upheavals of the early 20th century, Thailand entered a period of reconstruction and transformation. The monarchy remained a central symbol of national unity, but real political power oscillated between military leaders, civilian governments, and emerging political parties. Despite ongoing instability, the post-war era set the stage for a dramatic shift in the nation's economy, society, and global presence. The 1950s and 1960s marked the beginning of Thailand's economic boom. Leveraging its strategic location in Southeast Asia, Thailand became a hub for trade, agriculture, and later, manufacturing. Rice remained a critical export, but industrialization began to diversify the economy. Foreign aid, particularly from the United States during the Cold War, fueled infrastructure projects, including roads, dams, and ports, which accelerated modernization. Cities like Bangkok grew rapidly, becoming vibrant centers of commerce, education, and culture. Thailand's economy was transforming faster than its political system could stabilize, yet economic growth brought political turmoil. Coups, assassinations, and military juntas were recurring events. In 1957, Field Marshal Sarit Thanarat seized power, initiating a period of authoritarian rule under the guise of modernization and national stability. Governments alternated between civilian and military control, often reflecting deep social divides. Student protests and labor strikes grew louder, pushing the country toward democratization, even as the military clung to influence. Amid these changes, Thailand's national identity evolved. A growing middle class, urban elites, and educated youth began to define what it meant to be Thai in the modern world. Western influence, through culture, technology, and education, merged with traditional Thai values. Tourism began to emerge as a significant force, drawing global attention to the nation's temples, beaches, and heritage. At the same time, rural populations faced disparities, creating tension between modernity and tradition. Internationally, Thailand navigated the Cold War with careful diplomacy. It became a key ally of the United States in Southeast Asia, hosting military bases and participating in regional conflicts indirectly, all while avoiding colonization or occupation. This delicate balancing act preserved sovereignty, but also drew the country into global ideological struggles, influencing domestic politics and society. By the late 20th century, Thailand had achieved remarkable transformation. A growing economy, global connections, and a strong sense of cultural identity. But beneath the surface, unresolved political tensions simmered. Military influence, social inequality, and struggles for democratic governance would soon erupt into major conflicts, challenging the nation's stability and threatening to undo decades of progress. Thailand's journey from post-war recovery to economic powerhouse had come at a cost. The next chapter would expose the fragility of its political system, confront rising social unrest, and reveal the dark undercurrents of corruption, coups, and civil conflict that would test the country's unity like never before. As Thailand entered the late 20th century, the promise of economic growth clashed with the harsh realities of political instability. The country had transformed into a regional economic powerhouse, but its political system remained fragile, dominated by the military and beset by recurring crises. Coups, corruption scandals, and social unrest became part of daily life, revealing deep divisions within Thai society. The 1970s marked one of the most turbulent periods in modern Thai history. Students and intellectuals began demanding democracy, transparency, and accountability. Mass protests erupted, most notably the tragic October 6, 1976 massacre, when state forces and right-wing militias violently suppressed student demonstrators at Thammasat University. The event left hundreds dead or injured and shocked the nation, revealing the extent to which political power could be enforced through violence. These upheavals exposed a fragile political culture, one that oscillated between authoritarian rule and democratic aspirations. The military remained a decisive force in politics. Coups in 1971, 1976, and later in 1991 demonstrated that governments could rise and fall in a matter of months, often without popular consent. Each coup was justified as a measure to maintain national stability, but the repeated interference of the military deepened public distrust and created cycles of unrest. Civil society, meanwhile, began to grow stronger, with activists, journalists, and academics advocating for reform despite the risks. Economic transformation continued alongside political chaos. The 1980s and early 1990s saw rapid industrialization, the rise of Bangkok as a financial hub, and the emergence of a consumer-oriented society. Yet wealth was unevenly distributed. Rural areas remained underdeveloped, and social inequality fueled resentment toward the elite and the government. Urbanization brought new opportunities but also social challenges, including crime, informal settlements, and political radicalization. Internationally, Thailand's strategic position during the Cold War made it a key ally for Western powers. The country hosted American forces during the Vietnam War and maintained alliances that ensured economic and military support. While these alliances strengthened Thailand's regional influence, they also created tensions internally, as nationalist movements and leftist groups opposed foreign intervention and the influence of global powers on domestic affairs. Despite decades of crises, Thailand endured. Its monarchy, now more symbolic than political, remained a unifying force during times of upheaval. The country's identity, forged over centuries of wars, invasions, and colonization threats, provided a sense of continuity amid uncertainty. Yet the underlying issues, unequal development, military dominance, and political instability, would continue to challenge the nation well into the 21st century. The 1990s would bring both hope and warning. Thailand's economic boom reached unprecedented heights, making it the Asian tiger of Southeast Asia. But the prosperity concealed systemic vulnerabilities, financial speculation, corruption, and political discontent that would soon explode, threatening to plunge the nation into one of its most dramatic crises since the fall of Ayutthaya. By the early 1990s, Thailand had captured global attention. The nation's economy was booming, earning the label Asian Tiger alongside South Korea, Malaysia, and Singapore. Cities like Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Pattaya buzzed with construction, skyscrapers, and neon lights. International investors poured in, attracted by high returns, cheap labor, and a rapidly growing middle class. Thailand seemed unstoppable, a modern, thriving economy that had emerged from decades of political turmoil and post-war reconstruction. The government embraced globalization with enthusiasm. Infrastructure projects, including airports, highways, and industrial zones, transformed the country. Tourism skyrocketed, bringing unprecedented revenue. Banks expanded lending, and consumerism flourished. Ordinary citizens experienced rising incomes, urban conveniences, and new opportunities that their grandparents could scarcely imagine. Yet beneath this dazzling surface, a dangerous instability was building. Much of the growth was fueled by speculative investment, particularly in real estate and short-term foreign loans. Corporate governance and financial regulations lagged behind the pace of development. Banks and businesses borrowed heavily, often relying on debt denominated in foreign currencies, leaving the economy vulnerable to sudden shocks. Corruption and cronyism, though often overlooked during boom years, undermined long-term stability. The bubble burst in 1997. The Thai baht collapsed after the government could no longer maintain its fixed exchange rate. Panic spread through the banking sector, triggering bankruptcies, corporate collapses, and widespread unemployment. Foreign investors fled the country, and Thailand plunged into the Asian financial crisis. Millions of people saw their savings evaporate, and the nation faced its most severe economic contraction in decades. Social consequences were immediate. Protests erupted, political infighting intensified, and confidence in government institutions plummeted. Yet even in disaster, Thailand demonstrated resilience. International aid, structural reforms, and new leadership helped stabilize the economy. Over the following years, Thailand slowly recovered, learning painful lessons about debt, transparency, and governance. The crisis exposed vulnerabilities but also strengthened the country's determination to prevent such a collapse from happening again. The 1997 crisis was more than an economic shock. It was a wake-up call. It revealed the hidden fragility behind Thailand's rapid modernization and served as a reminder that prosperity, no matter how dazzling, can be fleeting without strong institutions and foresight. As Thailand entered the 21st century, it faced a new challenge, balancing rapid modernization with political stability, social equity, and national identity. The next chapter would explore how Thailand navigated globalization, political unrest, and the struggle to maintain its sovereignty in a rapidly changing world. As Thailand entered the 21st century, it found itself at the intersection of rapid globalization, technological advancement, and deep-rooted political instability. The economic lessons of the 1997 crisis were still fresh, yet the country's aspirations for growth and modernization accelerated, fueled by tourism, manufacturing, and a growing digital economy. Bangkok became a bustling megacity, connecting Southeast Asia to the world, while technology and social media reshaped communication, commerce, and politics. Yet beneath the surface, the nation faced unprecedented challenges. Political polarization deepened, stemming from a long history of military influence, corruption, and social inequality. In 2006, the military staged a coup against Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, a billionaire-turned politician whose populist policies had reshaped rural Thailand and challenged the traditional elite. Public demonstrations erupted, often turning violent, highlighting deep divisions between urban elites and rural voters, between conservative institutions and populist movements. Thailand's political turbulence continued throughout the 2010s. Protests, government crackdowns, and repeated coups created cycles of uncertainty. While the monarchy remained a stabilizing and revered institution, the country struggled to reconcile modern democratic ideals with centuries-old hierarchical traditions. The judiciary, military, and bureaucracy often intervened in politics, further complicating governance and fueling public frustration. At the same time, Thailand confronted social issues tied to modernization. Urbanization led to wealth disparities, environmental degradation, and strained infrastructure. Tourism, a major economic driver, brought international attention but also cultural and ethical tensions. Meanwhile, rising youth movements and digital activism challenged censorship, demanding reforms and accountability from a government that often responded with suppression. Globalization, while creating opportunities, also exposed Thailand to external pressures. Trade disputes, climate change, pandemics, and foreign investment volatility affected the economy, while foreign ideas and cultural influences sometimes clashed with traditional Thai values. In many ways, Thailand was navigating the same challenges that had tested nations throughout history: survival, sovereignty, and identity. This time in a globalized, highly connected world. Despite these difficulties, Thailand endures. Its centuries-long history of surviving wars, invasions, colonization pressures, and internal turmoil has instilled a resilience unmatched in the region. Its people continue to balance tradition and modernity, preserving cultural identity while adapting to the demands of a rapidly changing world. Final hook. Conclusion. Thailand's story is one of paradox. A nation that has never been colonized, yet has constantly negotiated with empires and global powers. A country that has experienced devastating wars and revolutions, yet retains a deeply rooted national identity. A society that has embraced modernization and globalization, yet struggles with political and social turmoil. The dark truths of Thailand's history reveal that survival has always required strategy, resilience, and sometimes sacrifice. And while the world sees the vibrant streets of Bangkok, the golden temples, and the thriving economy, few realize that Thailand's existence has often been precariously balanced on the courage and foresight of its people and leaders. This is the Thailand the history books don't fully reveal. A kingdom forged through fire, constantly reborn and still writing its story in the modern age. By the late 20th century, Thailand had transformed from a war-torn kingdom into a modernizing nation with a thriving economy. Yet beyond politics and industry, another force was quietly reshaping the country's identity: pop culture and tourism. What had once been a kingdom defined by rivers, rice fields, and ancient temples was now emerging as a global cultural phenomenon, drawing visitors and influencing the world's perception of Thailand. Tourism began to flourish in the 1960s and 1970s, initially fueled by Western travelers seeking adventure, exotic landscapes, and the mystique of Southeast Asia. The golden temples of Bangkok, the historic ruins of Ayutthaya and Sukhothai, and the pristine beaches of Phuket and Krabi captured international imagination. Backpackers, journalists, and filmmakers brought Thailand's beauty to the global stage. Bangkok became a crossroads for trade, tourism, and pop culture, creating a vibrant, modern metropolis that blended tradition and novelty. Pop culture itself emerged as a powerful tool for national branding. Thai cinema, music, fashion, and television began to reach wider audiences. By the 1980s and 1990s, Thai films started gaining recognition at international festivals, while Thai pop music, known as T-pop, echoed through Asia. Local celebrities became national icons, influencing everything from fashion trends to public opinion. Tourism campaigns capitalized on this cultural boom, portraying Thailand as both mystical and modern, ancient and cosmopolitan. The rise of tourism brought tremendous economic benefits. Hotels, resorts, restaurants, and entertainment industries expanded rapidly, creating jobs and driving infrastructure development. Airports, highways, and public transit systems were upgraded to accommodate millions of visitors annually. Foreign investment surged, further integrating Thailand into the global economy. Yet this boom also revealed new challenges: environmental strain, cultural commodification, and social inequalities between urban centers and rural areas. Modernization didn't stop at entertainment and tourism. It influenced daily life. The introduction of television, radio, and eventually the internet brought global ideas and consumerism into Thai homes. Young Thais absorbed trends from Europe, the United States, and Japan, blending them with traditional values. Cities became cultural laboratories, where heritage temples stood alongside neon lights, luxury malls, and nightlife districts, showcasing Thailand's dual identity. Despite these transformations, the nation's leaders recognized the delicate balance required to maintain cultural integrity. Tourism and pop culture were powerful tools for economic growth, yet they also shaped how the world saw Thailand. The monarchy, government, and business sectors worked to ensure that the country's image projected beauty, stability, and tradition, even amid rapid modernization. But beneath the glossy surface of tourism and pop culture, deep divisions persisted. Regional disparities, urban-rural gaps, and social inequalities were growing tensions that modernization could not fully resolve. The next chapter would reveal how these internal divides shaped political conflicts and tested the very unity of the nation. While Bangkok thrived as Thailand's modern heart, the reality outside the capital told a different story. The northern and northeastern regions, collectively known as Isan, experienced slower economic growth, limited infrastructure, and fewer educational opportunities. Agriculture dominated daily life, and centuries-old patterns of social hierarchy remained entrenched. Farmers and villagers faced cyclical poverty, seasonal migration, and the pressures of modernization that often bypassed rural communities. These regional disparities created more than economic tension. They fueled social and political unrest. Young people from the countryside, drawn to Bangkok for work or education, encountered vast inequalities. They saw a city of opportunity, wealth, and modernity, but also one controlled by elites, bureaucrats, and military influence. The stark contrast between urban prosperity and rural hardship became a source of grievance and a catalyst for political activism. The North and Northeast also carried historical legacies of marginalization. During earlier centuries, these regions had been semi-autonomous, or culturally distinct from central Siam. Even under the Chakri dynasty, central authorities sometimes struggled to fully integrate these populations. Local identities remained strong, and feelings of neglect persisted. As modernization accelerated in Bangkok, the lack of investment in rural areas became increasingly obvious, and discontent quietly simmered. By the late 20th century, these disparities began influencing politics directly. Political parties and movements emerged that claimed to represent rural populations, giving voice to frustrations that had long been ignored. Policies intended to redistribute wealth or provide social services sometimes met resistance from urban elites or the military, highlighting the fragile balance between progress and tradition. This tension between Bangkok and the provinces would later manifest in large-scale protests, election disputes, and even military intervention. The rural-urban divide also shaped culture and society. While urban Thais embraced global trends, technology, and consumerism, many rural communities maintained traditional practices, festivals, and beliefs. The clash of values sometimes generated misunderstandings and political polarization, complicating national unity. At the same time, migration and urbanization created hybrid identities, blending rural heritage with cosmopolitan influence, slowly transforming Thai society from within. These internal conflicts and disparities were more than social or economic. They were structural challenges that would continue to influence Thailand's politics, culture, and national identity well into the 21st century. Without addressing these gaps, modernization risked leaving parts of the country behind, fueling unrest and undermining progress. As the nation struggled to reconcile wealth, tradition, and regional inequality, Thailand faced an unavoidable reality. Its future would be determined not just by global forces, but by the ability to unite its diverse people under a common vision. The next session would explore how globalization, foreign investment, and international pressures tested Thailand's sovereignty and resilience like never before. As Thailand entered the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the nation found itself deeply entangled in a rapidly globalizing world. Its economy, once fueled primarily by agriculture, now relied heavily on international trade, foreign investment, and tourism. Globalization brought immense opportunities. Multinational corporations invested in industry, technology flowed into cities, and Bangkok became a hub for finance, commerce, and culture. Thailand was no longer just a regional player. It was part of the global economic network. Yet, with globalization came vulnerability. Thailand's rapid economic integration meant that global financial shifts, currency fluctuations, and foreign market demands could immediately affect domestic stability. The lessons of the 1997 Asian financial crisis were a stark reminder. Unchecked foreign investment, speculative loans, and over-reliance on export-driven growth could push the nation to the brink. Even as the economy recovered, systemic risks persisted, threatening both urban prosperity and rural livelihoods. Beyond economics, Thailand's sovereignty faced subtle but significant pressures. International organizations, multinational corporations, and foreign governments increasingly influenced policy decisions, from trade agreements to environmental regulations. While many initiatives brought modernization and development, they sometimes clashed with local traditions, social norms, and national priorities. The delicate balance between welcoming globalization and maintaining control over internal affairs became an ongoing challenge for policymakers. Thailand also encountered global crises that tested its resilience. Natural disasters, such as the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, devastated coastal regions, killing tens of thousands and displacing millions. The disaster highlighted weaknesses in disaster preparedness and infrastructure, yet it also showcased the country's ability to coordinate international aid and recovery efforts. Health crises like the H5N1 avian flu outbreak and later global pandemics further exposed vulnerabilities in public health systems, requiring Thailand to adapt rapidly while maintaining national stability. At the same time, foreign investment reshaped urban landscapes. Cities expanded with skyscrapers, industrial parks, and luxury developments. While modern infrastructure symbolized progress, it also deepened social inequalities. Rural populations often benefited less from foreign capital, creating stark contrasts between wealthy urban centers and underdeveloped provinces. These inequalities fueled political tension, as citizens demanded fair distribution of resources and a more inclusive economy. Globalization also influenced culture and identity. Media, fashion, and technology connected Thai youth to trends worldwide, while traditional arts and customs were both commodified for tourism and threatened by westernization. Thailand AS leaders faced a paradox, embracing the benefits of globalization without losing the unique cultural heritage that defined the nation. Thailand's increasing global integration brought unprecedented growth, but it also magnified underlying tensions, economic inequality, political instability, and cultural identity crises. The next chapter would dive into the rising social movements, protests, and calls for reform that challenged both the government and monarchy, reshaping Thailand's political landscape in ways that few could have predicted. As Thailand entered the 21st century, the nation faced a paradox. Economic modernization and global integration had lifted millions out of poverty, yet political inequality and institutional rigidity fueled widespread dissatisfaction. The gap between the government, the military, and ordinary citizens became increasingly visible, and a new generation of politically conscious youth began demanding change. University students and young professionals emerged as the driving force of social movements. Armed with smartphones, social media, and global awareness, they organized protests, campaigns, and forums to challenge entrenched power structures. Their demands were multifaceted: more transparency, free elections, social justice, and reforms to the monarchy's influence in politics. These movements marked a historic shift in Thai political culture, where activism was no longer limited to intellectual elites. It became a youth-driven nationwide phenomenon. The protests often clashed with authorities, revealing the fragile balance between state control and citizen rights. Governments deployed military and police forces to suppress demonstrations, sometimes violently. Iconic events, such as the red shirt and yellow shirt movements, highlighted divisions not just between citizens and rulers, but within society itself: rural versus urban, conservative versus progressive, and traditional versus modernist perspectives. Each confrontation left a lasting imprint on the national psyche, showing that Thailand's path toward democracy was neither linear nor guaranteed. Social movements also intersected with technology and globalization. International media coverage amplified local issues, while online platforms enabled coordination, education, and mobilization. Young activists drew inspiration from global protests, adapting ideas from movements in Hong Kong, Europe, and the United States. At the same time, governments attempted to control the digital space, enacting censorship laws, monitoring online activity, and regulating media, a digital tug-of-war that became a defining feature of modern Thai politics. Beyond the streets, calls for reform extended to institutions, including the monarchy and judiciary. Thailand's monarchy remained a deeply respected symbol of national unity, yet younger generations pushed for clearer boundaries between ceremonial authority and political influence. Debates about reform, transparency, and accountability became increasingly public, sparking both national reflection and controversy. Despite repeated crackdowns, social movements succeeded in shaping policy, influencing elections, and raising awareness. They revealed a society in transformation, one where citizens were increasingly unwilling to accept inequality or political stagnation. The struggle for democracy, though ongoing, demonstrated the resilience, creativity, and determination of Thai society, echoing centuries of resistance and adaptation. As Thailand confronted the push and pull of modernization, global pressures, and social reform, a new question emerged. Could the nation reconcile its rapid economic growth with political stability, social equality, and cultural identity? The final session would explore Thailand today, uncovering the hidden tensions, unresolved challenges, and the uncertain path forward. As Thailand entered the 21st century's second decade, it faced a paradox familiar to nations with long histories of resilience: unprecedented progress alongside persistent instability. Cities like Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Pattaya are now global hubs of commerce, tourism, and culture, connected to the world through technology, trade, and international diplomacy. Modern skyscrapers, high-speed internet, and thriving industries symbolize a nation that has embraced globalization with remarkable agility. Yet the rapid pace of change has also brought new challenges. Political unrest continues to punctuate Thai society, with recurring protests, coup threats, and social divisions reflecting unresolved tensions between urban and rural populations, elites, and ordinary citizens. The struggle to balance modernization with democracy and transparency remains central to Thailand's political discourse. Youth movements, social media activism, and global awareness have given citizens tools to demand reform, but entrenched power structures often resist change. Economic growth has diversified beyond agriculture and tourism, with industries such as technology, manufacturing, and finance playing increasingly important roles. Thailand has become a regional economic leader, attracting international investment and fostering innovation hubs. Yet wealth inequality persists, and rural communities continue to face underdevelopment and limited access to education and healthcare. The economic gap mirrors deeper social divides, highlighting the ongoing challenge of creating an inclusive, cohesive nation. Culturally, Thailand navigates a complex identity. Globalization has introduced Western influences into fashion, entertainment, and lifestyle, while traditional values, Buddhist philosophy, and monarchy remain central to national consciousness. Tourism has amplified both pride and scrutiny. Visitors are drawn to the country's temples, festivals, and natural beauty, but commercialization and social change have transformed the fabric of daily life, sometimes creating tension between authenticity and modernization. Technological advancements have also reshaped society. Digital platforms empower citizens, transform commerce, and create new forms of communication. Yet they also enable surveillance, censorship, and the spread of disinformation. Thailand's leaders must balance innovation with regulation, freedom with stability, a delicate task in an era where global forces move faster than domestic policies can adapt. Amid these pressures, the monarchy remains a cornerstone of national identity, symbolizing continuity across centuries of turmoil. Yet even this revered institution faces scrutiny from a more politically aware and globally connected population. Debates about the future of governance, social justice, and cultural preservation continue to shape public discourse, reflecting Thailand's ongoing negotiation between past and future. Thailand's story is far from simple. It is a nation forged through fire, surviving invasions, colonial threats, economic crises, and internal upheaval, yet continuously reinventing itself. Its history reveals a delicate dance between tradition and modernization, sovereignty and globalization, unity and division. As Thailand faces the challenges of the 21st century, one truth remains clear: the resilience, creativity, and determination of its people will continue to shape the nation's destiny. The dark truths of Thailand, its fragility, its crises, and its extraordinary ability to endure, remind the world that beneath the temples, markets, and neon lights lies a story of survival, courage, and a nation constantly reborn. Ayutthaya emerged at a time when Southeast Asia was locked in shifting power dynamics, where empires rose and crumbled within a generation. In 1350, on an island formed by the confluence of three rivers, King Ramathibodi I founded a new capital, Ayutthaya. Its position was deliberate, surrounded by water, shielded by natural barriers, and situated on major trade routes that connected China, India, the Middle East, and Europe. From the very beginning, Ayutthaya was designed not just as a capital, but as a statement of dominance. The city grew at a breathtaking speed. Palaces lined the riverbanks, royal temples soared into the sky, and foreign embassies were granted their own districts. Persian, Portuguese, Chinese, Japanese, Dutch, and French communities thrived inside the capital walls. Traders described Ayutthaya as one of the world's most cosmopolitan cities, a place where gold leaf-coated temple towers and where the king ruled with absolute authority over a flourishing empire. Its armies were just as formidable. War elephants clad in armor marched at the front lines. Elite warriors trained in both traditional weapons and imported firearms. Ayutthaya expanded its influence across the region, conquering territories and absorbing rival kingdoms. For centuries it stood as the beating heart of Siam, wealthy, powerful, and feared. Yet strength always invites challenges. And Ayutthaya's greatest enemy stood just across the western border. The Burmese kingdom viewed Ayutthaya's growth as a threat that could not be ignored. For more than 2 centuries, both sides clashed repeatedly, each war more brutal than the last. Ayutthaya survived invasions in 1548, 1563, 1584, and 1760, but survival came at a cost. Internal divisions grew, factions argued over succession, and rival nobles weakened the unity that once made Ayutthaya unstoppable. In 1765, the danger returned, greater than ever before. The Burmese launched a massive invasion, attacking from multiple fronts. Cities fell one by one as their armies advanced toward the capital. By the time they reached Ayutthaya's walls, the kingdom was exhausted. The siege lasted 14 months. Food ran out, disease spread, and the once glittering city slowly starved behind its walls. Then in April 1767, the final assault began. Burmese troops broke through the defenses, and Ayutthaya was engulfed in flames. Temples collapsed under intense heat. Libraries containing centuries of Thai history were destroyed. Palaces were looted. Thousands of civilians were killed or enslaved. When the fires died, nothing remained of the empire that had ruled for more than 400 years. But history has a strange way of saving a nation at the moment it should have vanished. Even in the ruins, a spark of resistance survived. A general named Thaksin escaped the destruction with a small band of loyal soldiers. Instead of surrendering, he began gathering survivors, reclaiming territories, and driving back the Burmese forces. While Ayutthaya lay in ashes, Thaksin rebuilt the heart of Siam from nothing, choosing Thonburi as the new capital and restoring order to a kingdom on the edge of collapse. Yet the man who saved Siam would face a destiny as turbulent as the kingdom he rebuilt. His victories would turn into suspicion, his brilliance into instability, and his reign into controversy that still sparks debate centuries later. When Ayutthaya fell in 1767, the destruction seemed final. The capital was reduced to ash, the royal court scattered, and the Thai people left without leadership. Many kingdoms in history never recovered from such devastation. But Siam was different, because one man refused to let it die. His name was Thaksin, a military commander of mixed Thai-Chinese ancestry. As the Burmese overran the capital, he and a small group of soldiers fought their way out of the burning city. They escaped south, gathering refugees and surviving soldiers along the way. In a time of absolute chaos, Thaksin became the single point of stability, a warrior who moved faster than news of Ayutthaya's fall could spread. From his new base in Rayong, Thaksin launched a daring campaign to reunify Siam. He took back cities one by one, defeating warlords and rival factions that had risen in the power vacuum. Within months, he liberated major regions from Burmese control. Within a year, he reclaimed enough territory to declare a new capital, Thonburi, across the river from modern Bangkok. Thaksin was crowned king of Siam, but he was no ordinary monarch. He lived like a general, fought alongside his soldiers, and pushed his kingdom to recover at impossible speed. He rebuilt the economy, reopened trade with China, restored diplomatic relations, and secured food supplies for the starving population. His campaigns extended Siam's power into Laos, Cambodia, and parts of Vietnam. In less than 15 years, he transformed a broken land into a resurgent regional power. But power won through war often breeds loneliness and paranoia. As the battles continued, whispers began spreading about Thaksin's mental state. Some accounts describe him developing a fierce obsession with spiritual purity. Others claim he believed he could communicate with celestial beings. He demanded absolute devotion from monks and nobles, sometimes punishing those who challenged him. Whether these stories were exaggerated or politically manipulated remains unclear, but they fueled unease among his generals and advisors. Tensions reached a breaking point. In 1782, a rebellion erupted inside the palace. High-ranking leaders, many of them old comrades, moved to remove the king. Thaksin was arrested, and historical records suggest he was executed shortly after, although some legends claim he escaped and lived in hiding until his death. To this day, his final fate remains one of the great mysteries of Thai history. With Thaksin gone, the throne passed to his most trusted general, Chao Phraya Chakri, who became King Rama I, founder of the Chakri dynasty, the royal family that still rules Thailand today. One of Rama I's first acts was moving the capital across the river to a new city, Bangkok. Thaksin's reign ended in tragedy, but his legacy is undeniable. Without him, Siam might have disappeared after the fall of Ayutthaya. He preserved the nation when collapse seemed unavoidable, only to lose his crown to the very stability he created. And with the rise of the Chakri dynasty came a new vision for Siam, one that would reshape its culture, expand its borders, and prepare it for the greatest threat of all: Western colonial powers closing in on every side. When the Chakri dynasty began in 1782 under King Rama III, Siam found itself at a crossroads. The country had been saved from extinction, but its political foundations were fragile, its population scattered, and its culture disrupted by decades of war. The new king knew that survival required more than rebuilding. It required reimagining the kingdom itself. One of Rama I's first decisions reshaped Siam forever. He moved the capital from Thonburi to the opposite bank of the Chao Phraya River. There, he constructed a new city, Krung Ratanakosin, known today as Bangkok. At its center stood the Grand Palace, Wat Phra Kaew, and the revered Emerald Buddha. These were not merely architectural works. They were symbols of stability, faith, and the rebirth of a nation determined to rise again. The Chakri kings began restoring culture that had been lost in the flames of Ayutthaya. Historical texts were rewritten, temples rebuilt, and traditional laws codified. Literature, dance, and art flourished under royal patronage, while the monarchy worked to reinforce unity among the Thai people after years of fragmentation. But Siam was not alone in the region. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, European empires were expanding aggressively. To the west, Britain tightened its grip on India and marched into Burma. To the east, France advanced into Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Across Southeast Asia, flags changed rapidly. Local kingdoms fell, borders shifted, and colonies emerged almost overnight.